All right, Gavin. So again, we're working with an arch composition. So we need to determine, how high we want the arch to be, and we're going to fill up space that way. Ooh, the arch is not very centered. Let me fix that a little bit. So you don't have to get really specific about measuring it out. I guess you could if you wanted to, but I think that you'll be able to do it if you work like this. So I'm thinking about shrinking your letters on either side because we didn't do that yet with anybody else's, and I don't want yours to be just like everybody's. So we'll do something like this, where we're utilizing a taller letter in the middle. So your V is going to be your big letter, and then they'll get progressively smaller. So let's do this. We'll try to make it like a big superhero V, and then we'll take these two spaces over here and we will divide them. We'll actually divide them with columns. What?
We can only see you. We can't see the paper.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me share screen with you guys. I apologize. It's recorded, I promise. So thanks for letting me know. I think you can see it now. Can you, Simone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we have this area that has been established for the letter V, and then we have A, G, I, N. Okay, so I just took the center, and then I divided these two in half by placing vertical columns. This column's a little bit leaning, but that's not a big deal. All right, so I said I'd do some kind of superhero V, so I'm going to try to do that. Actually, something like the Fresno State Victory V. I actually think it means Valley Pride or something like that. But I think what I'll do here is try to make the letters progressively smaller as they move out, because I have not seen any student submit a piece of work like that yet. So hopefully that will offer something on a point of originality for you. So we have an A, and then we'll put an I right here, and then we'll do big part of me wants to make it really large right there, but I'm going to go ahead and make it a bit thinner, like I said, so that it looks like it's getting smaller as it runs away from center. And we'll put a G right here, and we better stylize it to where it looks like it belongs with that big letter V. Okay, so after you kind of sketch in the letters, you're going to want to go ahead and make them in block. So we'll start with the V. We'll curve it at the top, and then we can maybe make the sides flat or curved. It's totally up to you. Okay. Obviously, in this particular composition, the V in the center is in the center, which makes it really important. So we want to make sure that we're spending a lot of time making sure that it looks really good while we sketch it out and frame it up. You don't have to do it exactly like this, Gavin. I'm just trying to help you get started. So you did say you wanted it boxy, so I'm going to go back and make these a little bit more straight. Boxy and arched. Alright, so that looks like that letter V from Fresno State's football helmets to me, so I'm happy there. I'm going to move on. Make these letters here. So typically something that's lower on the bottom of the page has more detail. So you might want to keep that in mind as you decorate it. But in your composition, your letters actually get smaller as they round, so you'll have to make some pretty serious decisions as you move forward with it. Sorry about the bell. Unavoidable. Let's see, I want to keep this straight because my vanishing point's going to have an angle. So I'm going to keep the eyes straight. And then for our N, whoops, do something like that. And then I've got to finish up over here for the G. Okay, so keep in mind, you guys, I would not expect you to work at this pace. I'm doing my best to get you on to working because I want you to have a good amount of working time this evening, but at the same time I want to make sure your questions are answered. So take your time, make sure it looks nice, and best recommendation is get an A on the final because that really protects you and your grade. Okay, it also protects your cord at graduation, so if you get an A on the final, of course you're still in the running for getting one of those cords or honors, which I think means more now that they're not placing as much on the SATs because it's basically a multi-factor admissions process for college, so any little award that you can get in high school or AP class or honors class that you can take will certainly help you. Alright, so I have Gavin written out here. There's some adjustments that I would certainly make to it. I'm not super sure about the angle of the A, but it'll work for a demonstration. So I have a vanishing point at the bottom, and at this point all diagonals have to transcend to it. Okay, so I'm going to go from every point that I can attach to that vanishing point, and I'm going to connect those, and then I'll go through and find my lines that show the illusion of depth for my three-dimensional letter. Okay, so what that means for me is on the bottom of the eye, the angle that I draw has to match the bottom of the eye. And I'm going to use the eye just as a starting place, and I'll reference all the other letters to its depth. So that's the depth of the eye. I'll go over here to the side. And that helped me quite a bit. I can plumb. It looks like I have a sliver to deal with there. Slivers are not fun at all, but sometimes we do get slivers. Alright, one thing I'm not liking is how the bottom of the eye and the top don't line up, but I'm just going to have to run with it for this demonstration because I should have corrected that earlier. So I have an angle here that I need to create a three-dimensional side for. Okay, this angle and this angle have to match. I think in your drawing you'll want to make sure that these line up with your original shape before you go too far, like I did. Okay, so you have a three-dimensional eye, and then we'll go to the letter N. As you get a little better, you'll realize what parts of the diagonals that you don't have to draw. So if they're simply going to disappear behind something, then that's an easy solution. Don't draw it. Okay. Otherwise, draw it and erase it. Both are acceptable solutions. You just got to do what you're most comfortable with. So for this letter N, for example, one thing that we could do is we could go to the side of the N, and we could draw the vertical line that represents the three-dimensional side that disappeared behind the letter I. We have an angle to deal with here for the bottom of the N. If we come across from it, we'll want to represent this leg with the angle that matches the leg that it came from. Then we have a vertical intersection here, so it has to match. This angle and this angle have to match. And then we have an interior side. That angle also has to match the interior side. That's how you make it make visual sense to people, the people that are looking at your work. It'll look wrong if the lines that are showing the illusion of depth don't match and they're not parallel to the original shape. That's when people start to get kind of iffy about what you've done. If it's just something small here and there, then it probably really doesn't matter. Unless someone's highly trained, they're not going to say much. So if it looks good, leave it alone. Alright, so cleaning up the N a little bit for you, just showing you how to do that. Hopefully that encourages you to do some sketching as opposed to trying to have it perfect in the first single line that you draw. We'll go ahead and work out this, what I'm calling the victory V or the valley V. Got a sliver again. Slivers aren't fun, but we need them. Okay, so we're going to go here on the bottom of the V. That's going to help us find a spot to connect the three-dimensional angle of the side. And it looks like I missed a diagonal here. You always find out later. So right here, I've got to do that little matching angle from up here, which means I went too far with that angle for the V. So that's okay. All right, so then I got crazy and I erased something else I needed. So just be careful. Sometimes it's actually quite hard to talk and draw at the same time. So if you find yourself kind of in a zone at home, that's normal. It took me a long time as a teacher to get comfortable with, one, people watching me draw. That's a really awkward thing. But also talking and drawing at the same time. It's definitely a learned skill. It's not my favorite way to draw, but I get paid for it, so that's helpful. All right, so here we go with the letter A. Bottom sides to the vanishing point, little corners. This corner, I don't think I could attach that, so that's why I skipped it. Going all the way over and connecting all these points. And we'll do the interior of the A as well. So I'm kind of plumbing over, just deciding where I might want to stop. In the A, I'm making the decision that it's in front of the V. So I erased the parts of the V that were interfering there in the A. And I'm going to come across and find this angle here. So this angle doesn't match that angle. This angle matches that angle. Okay, so I'm going to go connect this line here, and then I have a flat line to deal with, which is flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all these extra pieces. I'm going to plumb up from here, and that tells me that I don't need to do anything inside of the A. Okay, so I haven't really got very specific with that in class yet. That is sometimes just entirely up to the artist, but there are some answers, like for yours, Gavin, where you look up and you realize that, yeah, you clearly don't need to draw that part of the A because it certainly disappears behind it. So moving out to all these little points. That looks messy. Let me clean that up. Alright, so from this point, I'm going to place an angle. It looks like I have a bottom side here to deal with, so I've got a point, and I've got a point. And it looks like I have probably a small, I'm going to drop this down a little bit just for fun because I want to show a little bit of that G on the bottom. Alright, so if I were to continue this interior arch, I would come way over here. So what I'll do is I'll put the rounded angle in here, and then I'll match this angle up a little bit lower, and then I'll come vertically. I'm not even using the ruler, I'm just looking at these lines at this point. This curve happens way back here, so I don't have to draw that one. It's behind the A. Got some cleaning up to do right there. That looked a little bit tacky, so I'll do this. And then I'm going to look up here, and it looks like this flat spot would probably also be happening way back here. It'd be like right here. So I don't have to draw it because it's behind the A. Alright, so if we wanted to, just artistically, we make the decision that we want to have some kind of interior, something showing. We could just look at the G and make a decision, like maybe a decision like that would make sense. And we leave this part here. I'm not even so sure that I like that. I might move it out here. But anyways, Gavin, I hope this is helpful to you. Obviously erase and clean up and decorate. But I feel like it looks like a decent composition. You can decide to keep them the same height all the way across, but in any event, your middle letter will be in the middle, and then you'll take and divide the other two spaces exactly in half.